Hello, my name is James Moore, and this is a Tech Tuesday for the 28th of January 2025, which means by the time you're watching this, the content has probably changed because this is AI. But anyway, today we're talking about course design and creating content with generative AI. So, plan for today is just to introduce a quick icebreaker, talk about some planning, research, quizzes, and making your own chatbots. So, quick tip. Something that some people don't realize with generative AI is that the output that you create from some systems doesn't need to be what you copy and paste to the screen. So, for example, you could ask ChatGPT to create a document that is a Word document as its output. However, this doesn't always copy across consistently to different models. So if you're using Gemini, which is Google's large language model, it doesn't like Word, but it's quite happy to push out the content as a Google Doc. So anyway, let's think about some of the content we can create for our courses. It could be that you want to start your course with an icebreaker. So what better way to do this than by using music? You can come up with a theme song for your course or the particular week of that course. So Suno and Udio are freemium services that will allow you to do this. All you need to do is to create a prompt, put it into the system, and it will create a video or audio file for you. So for example, we could say a song about attending the first week of practical internet marketing class, browsers, internet, DNS, HTML, how the internet works, upbeat, funny, and then put in your musical genre. So there are many musical genres that your students are likely to vote for within the US. According to data, these are the top ones from last year. So this might be a fun thing to sort of break the ice your first class. But let's think about more concrete ways in which we could plan content for our courses. One suggestion here is to use the Molix's reusable templates. So this is a prompt that is created by the husband and wife teaching partnership with the Molix. This is a prompt that allows you to unpack the specific task you want completed with AI's help, codifying your process and thinking about the task. And then it creates a draft blueprint prompt that you or others can iterate on and use in the future to complete the task. So on the URL at the bottom of this page, you'll see an explanation of the reasoning behind this and the long and fairly detailed prompt that's used. However, you can access their GPT. So this essentially is the prompt packaged into a web app in which you can put in your text and you can have a conversation with the AI to create your prompts. So this is something I would highly recommend as you start to think about the courses you may be teaching. You can also inject sort of amusing or useful web content into your desire to learn courses. So here's a fairly trivial example of this. There's a site called Wheel of Names. And what this does is it allows you to put in names of people, and then the wheel spins and will select at random a winner. So this is something we sometimes use in classes here to sort of put a student on the spot for a pop presentation, or a way to work out the allocation of students in a line of presenters in a class. So if you were to do this, the AI will spit out some code for you, but chances are it's not exactly what you want. So you can see here on screen, there's a conversation between me and the AI. I'm seeing that there's some deficiency in the output. So here, the wheel doesn't spin the way I want it to. So we iterate and we improve. Here, the names aren't quite large enough. So again, I'm putting in a revision for the system. I can grab the code, I can put that in my desire to learn course. So now I've got an interactive element that exists on the page that I can use. So again, this is something worth considering to make your courses a little bit more fun for your students. So let's think about research. It could be that you are looking for a guest speaker to talk about a particular topic. And chances are you're used to going to LinkedIn and doing some research there. The issue there is sometimes LinkedIn doesn't provide the output quite the way you want, or it creates a history of you visiting various people's profiles, which may look a little bit creepy. So there's a process you could use. So this is an agent that exists on agent.ai, which you can use to research a person. So this is a platform in which people can build various agents that use large language models or other AI in the background. So here, this particular person has created the prospect researcher and made this available. So here, this describes what the system does. If you haven't encountered agent.ai, it's a useful system to look at. So basically, it's a network and marketplace dedicated to AI agents, founded by the co-founder and CTO of HubSpot, and it's a freemium service. So they will ask you for cash, but chances are there's some fairly interesting things that you can do without this. So here's how it could work. You can put in the name of a person. So I'm going to use me as an example. So what this does is it will grab information, scrape it off the web, use AI to sort of put this into some market intelligence. So here, this will give a short bio of the person. It'll put together accomplishments that it's gleaned from the internet. It'll think about particular job skills this person may have. And then the aspect that I found most interesting is it will rank motivators. So here are the things that motivate a particular person and ways in which these motivations define who this person is. This can be really helpful if you are creating outreach to invite this person to come to your class and talk about a particular topic. This will give you some indication as to the things that motivate them most, which you may not pick up from their regular biography and accomplishments on LinkedIn. So hopefully NotebookLM is a service that you're aware of. So this is a wonderful AI platform that's been around since 2023, renamed to NotebookLM, and now has audio overviews. So these are deep dive podcasts in which two AI voices will talk about a particular topic based upon the source material you upload. So this is something some faculty are starting to introduce into their classes as a way to get students to appreciate content from an alternative angle. It's a great tool for that, but be aware there is a complementary service that may work better for your particular needs here, which is called Illuminate. So again, this is a Google service, but here it's focused primarily on academic papers and books. It will create the same podcast, but it will do so as an interactive element on screen that will show you the text as the audio is being produced. So this can be a really good way to get up to speed on topics that are slightly out of your subject knowledge area and something that might be helpful to share with your students. But getting back to NotebookLM, this is a great way of looking at a very dense set of source documents or one particularly large document and sort of filtering in on the things that are useful to you. So in a recent episode of the Artificial Intelligence podcast, they were talking about the Future of Jobs Report 2025. So this was a mammoth document that came out in January, and it'll take a long time to read and synthesize the information from this. Instead, you could use NotebookLM to sort of focus on a particular aspect of the report, perhaps to create a podcast on that, and then prompt NotebookLM for specific questions. So the cool thing here is the output from NotebookLM will provide references to the source material. So this can be a helpful way of ensuring that the system isn't hallucinating and that you understand the source material. One of the ways I use this platform is through the 4 default notes that it will create. So what we can do is we can upload a vast reservoir of resources. So it could be all of the readings that you have for a particular course. And then when we click and ask these notes to be created, we're getting textual information that we can repurpose. So the study guide will give you quiz questions and answer keys, essay questions, and for me, what is most useful, a glossary of key terms, which I can copy and paste into supporting documents for the classes I'm teaching. It will also create a briefing document from these sources. So here it's providing an overview of all the information in the source documents. And that sometimes is a great way to sort of provide a cohesive overview of all the resources that you've put together. The FAQ will create a series of structured questions and answers that might be useful in creating discussion topics for the course. And then the timeline creates a timeline of items in the source document along with cast of characters. So that's very useful as creating a narrative that you might use. So anyway, on screen, we saw the magic word quizzes, and we can see here that this system does create quiz questions for us, but let's think of a way that we can leverage this more effectively. So quizzes are a great way to provide an element for students to test their own knowledge as a course is being taught. And you can decide to grade this, or you can provide this as an ungraded opportunity. And here, that's my sort of favorite, because this sort of incentivizes students to answer the quizzes without cheating. And also, this creates a mechanism for the students to understand how well or how badly they know the source material, which is great to sort of motivate them to dig in deeper if they're falling behind. So AI is changing the aspect of learning management systems. So here at DePaul, we use Brightspace D2L. D2L has come up with an AI-powered learning tool by the name of Lumi. So this is something that you have to pay extra for, and it provides sort of 4 interesting elements. It will allow quizzes to be created from content within courses. It can also generate suggestions for new assignments or discussions aligned with your course material. It can create practice questions, and then it can automate answers to FAQs and surfaces resources and how-to guides for students. So this is interesting. Do I think it's the future of D2L here at DePaul? Well, maybe not. And I think cost is an issue here. So this is something that Brightspace D2L will be charging a considerable amount of money for. And it's great that it consolidates a lot of the AI activity in our learning management system, but I think it's more likely that faculty will want to use very particular tools that meet their very particular needs. But let's think about how we can leverage D2L and AI to create quizzes. So within D2L, we have a question library, and this is where your quiz questions reside. Through that mechanism, it's possible to download a template CSV file. And this shows a way in which you can have a structured file that can have many hundreds of quiz questions that you can ingest into D2L. So the structure for this is a little bit sort of scary to look at initially. It's not something that a typical human would feel comfortable creating, but this is the language that D2L understands to create these quizzes at scale. And it'll work for some particular formats. So written response, short answer, matching, multiple choice, true or false, multi-select, and ordering questions can be within this format. So the issue is, how can we use AI to generate a CSV file from resources we have? So I went to the internet, and Reddit is the front page of the internet. So within the professor's subreddit, I found a particular user, Q-Ning, who was using AI, using prompts to create quizzes back in 2024, a year ago, that could then be imported into D2L's question library. They had a very detailed prompt that you can sort of see on screen at the moment, although the font is super small, that articulates how to do this. So the idea is you could use your large language model, for example, Copilot, that we have here at DePaul. So the advantage of using Copilot is it gives you a secure environment for you to upload documents and to produce your results. It limits you to a source file that is 1 megabyte or smaller. But anyway, you could run this prompt, obtain the CSV quiz file, and then import it into D2L's question library. So the process is simple. Does it work? Unfortunately not. So this process will create a text file, mcquestions.txt, which you could rename. So you change the file extension to CSV. You can try to upload this into D2L, but the process will fail. And the reason for this is a UTF encoded file, but the text characters within this particular file are not properly encoded. So characters like an apostrophe or a comma or speech marks come up as what may look to you to be gibberish characters. Now, you could use a process to fix that, but that might inject some errors. So anyway, not going to work with Microsoft Copilot. Does it work with ChatGPT? Well, ChatGPT will create the CSV file for you. Does it work with Claude? It won't create the CSV file for you, but it does create text on screen that you can copy and paste. Does it work with Gemini? Well, it won't create the CSV file for you, but it will create a Google Doc. So can you use those things downstream? It depends on what platform you're using. So ChatGPT for Omni, the CSV file has the same encoding issues. It won't work. If you're using ChatGPT Omni 1, you can't upload PDFs into the system. So it's a lot harder to create content from source material. ChatGPT 4 Legacy fails to create a working CSV file, as does Claude 3.5 Sonnet, although you could copy and paste content there. Out of all of them, Gemini Advanced 1.5 Pro sort of works because you can export your output as a Google Doc, save that as a CSV, edit that CSV to remove the title, and that will work. But that's not a great process. As I mentioned, you can copy and paste your output, and you put this into Excel, save this as a CSV file, and then you could attempt to import this into D2L. So sometimes we sort of hit formatting issues here. So out of all the learning management systems, out of all the large language models, Gemini Advanced sort of work the best. But this isn't a process I'd recommend. I've got a better approach for you. And here my focus is on something that's free, that hopefully makes it easy to review quiz questions before uploading them to Desire to Learn. And even better, ideally works with multiple large documents. So we need to prime the pump here. There's a tool called the D2L Quiz Question Converter, which is available on the D2L community site. So this is a zip file that you can import into your Desire to Learn course. And what it does is it will take structured content and turn that into types of questions, like the ones you see on screen, that can be loaded as a bulk file into D2L. So the process is you find this zip file from the Brightspace community site, which is called quiz_question_converter.zip. You download this to your computer. You don't unzip the file. And you then in D2L navigate to the Import, Export, Copy Components tool, which is typically found in Course Admin. And then you choose the option to import a Brightspace package, and you select that zip file from your computer. You'll have to wait. It'll take a few minutes to do this, but this then means that the quiz question converter is available in content. This will be a hidden page, and it has an interface that you can paste structured content in, and it will then create a CSV file that downloads to your computer. So here we want a prompt that we can use with the various large language models to create accurate structured content with as few hallucinations as possible, ideally none. So I have a prompt. It has 9 guidelines, but basically the first part of the prompt is to say, create some multiple choice questions. So on screen I have 20, but it's possible that you could use a larger number. And we're asking to export as a Word document. Not every platform will do this, but that's okay. And then here are the guidelines in terms of structured content. So every question must be a single line. And here we provide an example. And the options or distractors for that question must be on their own separate lines. We can randomize these, and then we mark the correct answer with an asterisk placed at the beginning of that line. And again, we provide an example on screen. We want feedback for our students. So here my prompt is telling the system to create a feedback line. It's using an @ symbol at the start of that line to indicate that this is feedback. And here we ask for a paragraph break after the feedback to make sure that the questions don't all run on as a piece of continuous text. We want the large language model to avoid providing clues. So we make sure the placement is randomized to avoid possible clues from the order. We're happy with reworded variants of questions. That's okay. And we don't want too many distractors or answers that say all of the above or none of the above. But if we do that, we have to make sure that we're not randomizing the answer order. We're using multiple sources here as our input. So it could be a PDF handout from the course. It could be a transcript of the course you've taught. It could be some other thing. So here I'm using the reading as the feedback to be used here, or the reference to the source that's quoted. You may want to change this if you're using some alternative structure for your source material. But here we're clearly indicating when questions are created, what to reference to say where this question sort of comes from. And then we want to make sure, again, that the large language model properly uses the appropriate formatting for the creation of these questions. So here I'm providing 2 examples on screen. And then the last bit of advice sort of that we're giving to the large language model is that there are ways that they may create incorrect formats. So this is something that I learned from iterating with the systems. So we're making sure, please don't number the questions or put them in a bulleted list. And this is a sort of example of an incorrect format. So anyway, long prompt, but that's something that we can use. So for example, Microsoft Copilot, which you use here at DePaul, has an environment that is protected. So whatever you do here won't be used to train large language models, and any files that you put in the system don't leave DePaul's network. So this is a great system to use if you're using a single source, and that single source is no larger than 1 megabyte in size. So all we do is we put in the prompt, and then you can copy and paste the output in D2L Quiz Converter Quiz Question Converter. If there are other models that you want to use, this will work in the majority of them. So this will even work on DeepSeek if you've started using this new large language model from China. Some of them will output as Word documents. The majority will just give you content on screen that you copy and paste. So this is all good and well. But it could be that you have lots of source documents, lots of large files that you want to utilize to create a quiz. And this is where we can leverage NotebookLM. So NotebookLM does have some limits. And the first one is kind of tough. It limits the character limit for the prompt that you create. It's approximately 700 characters based upon my interaction with the platform. This may change at some point in the future, but at the moment that means that really large prompt I used will not work. We've got to create something that's shorter. It will limit the output to about 5,000 words. So this means you can ask it something, it's going to give you a lot of content, but no more than 5,000 words. And that probably should be sufficient. It's going to limit you, maybe limit is the wrong word here, to 50 sources per notebook. So this means 50 PDFs or 50 text files or 50 references to videos that you upload. So that's not a huge, to be honest, that's not really limiting. That's pretty amazing. And those sources can be no larger than approximately 500,000 words. So again, that's probably not a limit for most of us. This system is optimized for text. So that means if your source content is largely graphical, NotebookLM will have some issues. If you've got a file that's mixing images and text, perhaps we're going to run into some sort of complications. But what this does is it allows you to go to 100. It could be that you're asking the system here to create 100, 200, 300 sort of quizzes for you from source material. So this is great. This means that we can create something that's going to allow us to be very efficient in terms of putting quizzes in Desire to Learn. So on screen, I've got my simplified prompt. So this sort of cuts down a lot of the clarification that we saw previously. And essentially we're saying, create 100 multiple choice questions from the source material. And here is the format that we want you to use. We're providing 2 examples here, so it's more likely that the system will understand what we want. So in practice, I've seen some variability on outputs. So in most cases, we can put something into NotebookLM, and it will give us something that we can copy and paste into the D2L Quiz Question Converter. If you do encounter issues, generally we can clean this up very quickly in Word by using copy and replace, or it might add some sort of preamble like, okay, here is 100 multiple choice questions formatted to D2L Brightspace. Chances are you'll want to remove that before pasting content into the D2L Quiz Question Converter. Here's the process. So NotebookLM allows us to upload up to 50 source documents. So you can decide how many of those that you're going to use in the creation of your quizzes. So it could be your final quiz is using all of the reading, all of the material, everything that was created for this particular class. But it could be that you unselect some. So you could create stuff that is for a weekly quiz, a midterm, up to you. So here I very purposefully renamed my source material, adding the week to each of those items. So here I can know very, very easily which things to unselect or select before creating my quiz. Once I've done that, I put in the prompt that I shared with you. So we paste that into this element here on screen, and then we press the icon that looks a little bit like an arrow to get that prompt to engage. This will churn away for maybe a minute or 2, depending on how much source material you've got. And it's going to give us those quiz questions. And you typically can just click on the copy icon here and then go back into D2L, into your quiz converter, paste the output into the dialog box and press convert. That then will give you a CSV file that's saved to your computer. Go into the question library, click on import and upload that file. And you now have a quiz. You can review this, obviously, before you share it with your students, but this is a very efficient process. So I mentioned sometimes there's some variability in terms of the formatting that NotebookLM provides. So this is the ideal. This is what you want. The format looks like this. Occasionally, it will put everything together into a stream of text. Occasionally, it will give you 2 asterisks either side of the correct response. So effectively, it's using markup here. Or it will put 2 @ symbols before the feedback for the correct answer. So it's rare that this happens, but if it does happen, there are ways that we can fix the formatting being incorrect. One way is using a find and replace to sort of put in line breaks after periods and question marks. So here you replace a period with the code for a line break, or replacing a question mark with a question mark and a line break. So that's one thing we could do. Or, this is simpler, asking a large language model to clean up the output. So here, this is a simple prompt that says, rewrite this content following this formatting structure. And we're giving those same 2 examples. So anyway, what I'm hoping you're seeing here is we have a great way to create content at scale in D2L. And then very quickly, I just want to share that there are some ways that we can create chatbots. So you could do this in the paid version of ChatGPT, but there is a freemium product called Poe, Platform for Open Exploration, that allows you to do this for $0. So this is something that you may want to think about. It has example chatbots on its system, and it uses that as things that you can feed into various bots that you can create. A bot is either private or public. So if you want something that you want to share with your students, it will have to be a public bot that you create. But here, what you're doing through the platform is deciding which particular bot you're going to have. You give it a unique name. You're giving it some behavior. So this is a prompt. So basically you're telling the bot how you want it to act. You're giving it some context, some rules. You then give a knowledge base. So again, this is similar to what we're doing with NotebookLM. We're giving it a knowledge source. We are more limited here. So Poe is going to give you a lower threshold than NotebookLM. We want to give the bot a greeting message, the thing that it says when a user first lands on its page. And then we give it a profile. So basically, this is the biography that describes what the bot does. And we decide if it's public or private. So again, public is what you're going to do if you want to create something for your students. So here's an example of one that I created for a course that I teach. So this is based upon the material for my course. Students can go in and they can ask questions, and it'll give it a response based upon that material. Or I can create something that creates images based upon a prompt, or something that creates video. And here, these systems don't create content that is amazing. We typically sort of end up with nightmare material like this. Or you can do a variant of the regular bot, which is a role play bot. So here the focus is on defining more of the character for this particular bot. But these are easy ways to create a chat interface for your course. So anyway, we covered a lot of material today. As I said, AI is changing, so it could be by the time you're watching this, some elements have changed. But hopefully this gives you an impetus to use AI to improve the efficiency of your course design, preparation, and then putting stuff out there for your students. I hope this is of value to you. Have a great day.